Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to WWE Aftershock Season 4, Episode 8. And I'm flying solo again. Yeah, I know. I talked about before how if Chris couldn't do the show, then I would just say, screw it, I'm just going to do it solo. Um, but it didn't exactly happen that way. Pretty much, there was one week he couldn't do the show. Then there was one week I couldn't do the show. And then he couldn't do the show this week. So I figured, we have all this stuff coming up this week. I figured I would just fly solo. Because also, I haven't been doing the show week to week either, because there really hasn't been a ton going on in WWE at the moment. It's been kind of just going about the King and Queen of the Wind tournaments, um, and not really a whole much else. So I figured I would just kind of wait until this week to do the show. Since we have two PLEs coming this week, Evolve just had a big show, and um, yeah, just kind of not really a whole lot going on. So. But before I even get to any of that, I'm actually going to talk about something not related to WWE, sort of, and that's AAA. But the reason I'm talking about that is because it was pretty much influenced by WWE since they own it, and it's been the big talking point of WWE lately. So I figured I'd talk about that and talk about the big AAA show that just happened. I meant to look up what it was, but I forgot. I think it's Nuchos Grandos or something. But it was the big AAA show. It was 2 weeks where we finally got the culmination of the Al Grande Americano rivalry. So I want to kind of talk about those shows first, and then obviously what's kind of gone down since those shows has happened, and then we'll go over the main roster stuff and obviously NXT and everything. But let's start with that. Now I did a predictions video for that. Like the go home week of that show. Um, well, not exactly. I got my weeks mixed up. I thought the week it was actually going to happen was actually the show, but they waited an extra week. So, but let's just talk about it. But on that episode, they announced the general manager of AAA. I figured I'll talk about that first, which is going to be Rey Mysterio. They announced that it was Rey Mysterio. They did a whole thing where the roster was out there. He came out and, did a speech saying he's going to make AAA like the best it's ever been and everything. I think this is cool. I did kind of throw this around out there, but I didn't actually think it would happen considering the fact that he still wrestles and he does the commentary, so I didn't really see the reason for him to come in and do both. But I think it's cool. It makes total sense for Rey Mysterio to be the GM since he was there when AAA started. It basically kicked off his wrestling career. And I think this is cool. And he's still going to be doing commentary also. It's been hit or miss, obviously, if he's going to do it. Like, one of the weeks he wasn't there because they said he was doing AAA general manager stuff. So he may be in it, he may be out of it. I think the reason they're keeping it this way is they tried out Savio Vega, and he was good on commentary, but obviously the main reason Ray is on commentary is so he can do the translation. Because obviously since it's AAA's in Mexico, the wrestlers only speak Spanish. Some of them probably can only speak Spanish, so it makes sense to have someone translate. They tried Savio, but he couldn't. I think he couldn't exactly translate well, I would say. He did, obviously, he could speak the language, but he couldn't really keep up. And when he would actually translate, the person would already be on to like their next sentence. So it just didn't really match up with anything. So I think Ray doing it makes more sense. Um, so, but that'd be kind of cool. And it's so crazy. Rey Mysterio's the GM of AAA, the commentator for AAA, and he's in the Hall of Fame. That's all the type of signs that a wrestler's going to start to slow down, and he still can like go in the ring and everything like that. So I think Rey Mysterio being the general manager would be cool. Um, I don't know how often he's actually going to be like there at the shows every week. But we'll see how it happens. But yeah, I think Rey Mysterio as the GM makes sense. Other things that happened on that show was Laredo Kid retained his cruiserweight title against Rey Fenix. This is where he officially turned heel, and then later on, Rey Mysterio made the rematch for the big AAA show that just happened. And then we had the Los Americanos versus the Creed brothers with the lucha masks on. Obviously, that match was thrown out because of the original El Grande Americano and El Grande Americano's brawl. Obviously, we were thinking this match was going to get called off because we were told that if they got into it at all, the match would be off, and El Grande Americano would have to lose his mask. But then Ray said, the match has already been advertised. The match is going to happen. So, pretty cool stuff. Then we had week 1 itself. We had some really good video packages to hype it up. The first match on the show was Rey Fenix versus Laredo Kid for the Cruiserweight title. Just an absolutely insane match. I thought it ruled. It was absolutely awesome. Of the 3 matches they had, this might have been the best one because they knew they were probably going to be in a bigger stage and everything like that. So that was pretty cool. Rey Fenix won the title. I'm really happy this happened. I figured when they did the 3rd match, Rey Fenix would win. I think this is pretty cool. This finally gives something for Rey Fenix to sink his teeth into. He's been kind of floundering a little bit, I would say, since after SummerSlam last year. So I'm kind of glad he's got this to kind of go on now. Match I thought was absolutely awesome. It was 5 stars, I think. Great stuff. And then we had Dr. Wagner Jr. Versus Vikingo for the Latin American Championship. I thought this match was great also, really back and forth stuff. Eventually we had a bunch of run-ins during the match. Mini Vikingo interfered, Almas interfered, Dr. Wagner Jr.'s brother interfered, but eventually Vikingo was finally able to win via Almas' interference. I think it makes sense to give it to Vikingo since he's been kind of taking a lot of losses lately. He lost to Dom and can't challenge him for the Mega title. He lost to Mini Vikingo shortly before that. He's been kind of taking a lot of big losses, so I think it makes sense to give him this title. So, yeah, I think this is all great stuff right here. Then we have the AAA World Tag Team title match. It was the War Raiders challenging Pagano and Psycho Clown. Really good stuff here. Unfortunately, not that this match was really bad. I just don't think it could really match up with all the other matches on the show, especially the next one, as we'll talk about. But really good stuff all around. Eventually, War Raiders do win after some miscommunication with Pagano and Psycho Clown. And then they kind of argue at the end of it. Pagano walks off, and then Psycho Clown gets beaten up. And, they do this moment where, you think he's going to turn around and go save the War Raiders, but he actually doesn't. He walks off. I kind of like this. I would say definitely turn heel, but they could obviously spin this and have him say, that this isn't his official heel turn yet, that he just didn't want to go back. But overall, I enjoyed this. The match itself is very good. I'll give it 3 3/4 stars. Still a very good match on the show. Happy War Raiders got this spot here. They're really good team, so I'm enjoying this. And, they may win the WWE Tag Team titles now, so we'll have to wait and see on that. And then the main event was the Mask versus Mask match. The Mask versus Mask match. Original El Grande Americano versus El Grande Americano. This ruled. Easy 5 stars. Just go watch it. Just an absolutely insane match. And it just absolutely ruled it. It might be WWE's best match of the year as a whole company, since, obviously we have NXT and WWE and everything like that. This match was absolutely awesome. You really didn't know what was going to happen. Obviously, the right move was for El Grande Americano to keep his mask. But obviously, I was kind of worried they were going to get stupid and have him lose his mask. And it would have just been dumb. But I'm really happy about this. But yeah, the match was absolutely insane. You had run-ins from Tejano Jr., I think his name is, Pipinelli, um, Lubbock's girlfriend. I think it's Adriana Gertrude. I might have butchered that. Um, and El Grande Americano finally won with the headbutt. He didn't use the blade either, unless I just didn't see it. But and obviously he had run-ins too from the Creeds and Los Americanos, and then but El Grande Americano got to keep his mask, and then obviously afterwards, the original had to unmask. It was revealed to be Chad Gable, um, and they actually did the tradition that that they typically would do, if you lose your mask in Mexico, which was pretty cool. And this basically was Gable turning babyface. But yeah, 5 stars all around. Um, just an absolutely awesome match. Might be over 5 stars, but it was absolutely tremendous. Then we had week 2, which I don't think was as good as week 1, but it was still good. Um, I remember we had like a huge 6-pack challenge. It was like Octagon Jr., both members of LWO, Lindsay Dorado, and I think Dragon Lee, or it might have been. Yeah, I think it was Dragon Lee, but I don't think it was Dragon Lee. Um, but it was to face. It was to determine who was going to face Ray Phoenix for the cruiserweight title. They gave the win to Lindsay Dorado. Didn't really see that coming. I kind of figured it was going to be like one of the LWO members or something like that, but that was pretty cool. Um, yeah, that was a great uh, um, 6-man, like five fatal 5-way, whatever that was. Just a bunch of guys just hitting moves and everything like that. And then Rey Mysterio just made some announcements about AAA. He announced, I don't think we got the announcement here. We got it the week before that night 1 of Triple Mania is going to be in Vegas, and night 2 will be in Mexico, which I think is pretty cool. And then he announced like there's going to be some crossover between Raw and AAA, since Raw and SmackDown will be in like Mexico that week. And then he announced like Dominic Mysterio was going to be on the June 20th episode, which sort of happened. And then he announced like I think some more events for AAA within the next coming weeks. And then the main event was La Catalina, Bailey, and Lola Vice versus Los Toxicas. Very good 6-woman tag. Everyone delivered pretty well. Eventually, La Catalina actually got the pinfall victory on Lady Flamer, which, now gives her reason to challenge for the title since she pinned the champion. I thought that made sense. I was kind of shocked Lady Flamer ate the pin, but that didn't really bother me. But yeah, that match was very good. I thought I'll give it like 3 3/4 stars. It was great stuff. And just a tremendous outing for AAA. Just a tremendous events. AAA has really been on fire recently. I've really enjoyed it. I watch it every week, and yeah, it's awesome. We got a match. We got a few match of the year contenders on there. So it's been great stuff. Ever since these shows, we've had some storyline developments. Not completely. I think the next week was definitely like not really a taped week, but you could definitely tell that was kind of a throwaway. The week that like was the real week you could have tuned in was probably June 20th, because that was like a big week for AAA, and that was kind of like the true like this is gonna be where we're going now type of thing. Ray Phoenix though has defended the AAA Cruiserweight title a few times. He's defended it on SmackDown twice against both members of Fraxium, which I don't think he's going to be doing that now that SmackDown goes to 2 hours. I think they just needed to fill that 3rd hour, and that helped that, which kind of sucks. And he's also defended it in a triple threat against Laredo Kid and Lindsay Dorado. And again, I hear he's going to get like a lengthy title reign. I think that makes a lot of sense. And I hope, he can just go out there and just have cruiserweight title matches, be the fighting champion that you expect him to be. And you got a big development in El Grande Americano. He came out the previous episode and announced he wants to go after Dom for the AAA Mega title, and then he was attacked. I think it's Los. I forget the name of the faction. I meant to look that up too before I came on here, but I forgot. But it's a big faction that used to be around. Penta was in it, and Los Garza's like uncle. I think it's Hector Garza was in it. So it's pretty cool they brought that faction back. I wish I remember the name of it. But at first I thought it was Liv Morgan because Carmen Petrovic came out, and I'm like, okay, so is that Liv? Because obviously he just talked about Dom, but then I'm like, I don't think Liv was in Mexico that week. But it was Carmen Petrovic, and I was really confused there. But then Daga, Los Garzas, and I think that was it. I think it was just Daga and Los Garzas. There might have been one more that I'm forgetting. And then, the end, Lucian Price, which was interesting. They got Lucian Price for this, so they didn't get Blanco Nima, which was interesting. But yeah, they all attacked El Grande Americano. Really cool they brought this faction back. I don't know much, obviously I don't know too much about it. The biggest thing I can give praise for this though is obviously Triple Mania still isn't for a while. It's not till September. We still got some time in between. So obviously the big match there to do was obviously crowning El Grande Americano, probably in Mexico, night 2, AAA Mega Champion. But obviously you need to find something for him to do in between then. He'd be because obviously it's only June. They still got some time in between. So I imagine this is just to kind of keep him busy until, that time frame. So I imagine he's going to feud with this group until he gets to that moment. But, the biggest thing I recommend is maybe say Dominic Mysterio paid these guys to take out El Grande Americano. That way he could have some connection to the storyline. And I think it would make sense for Dom's character to do this, to pay people to take out El Grande Americano. You could get a lot of storyline elements out of this. Maybe Chad Gable, one of the episodes can, when El Grande Americano is being like beaten down, can come out and make the save, which I think would be cool because he's been going on his babyface run right now. So yeah, I think that'd be cool stuff. Cool for these talent too. Nice for Los Garza to get this spotlight. Nice for Carmen Petrovic, who I think is pretty underrated. I think she doesn't get the credit she deserves by WWE. I think she's good. And Lucian Price is going to be a big spot for him because he got the big debut out of this because he was the one that got to show up first and lay out El Grande Americano. So yeah, I think that all makes sense. And then obviously Chad Gable, since he's lost his mask, has been going on a apology tour. He's apologized to all the luchadors that he disrespected, like the Lucha Bros, Rey Mysterio, and Dragon Lee. He saved Rey Mysterio from having his face be revealed when Rusev unmasked him. And then this week he tried to apologize to Alpha Academy, but it wasn't accepted because of Maxine Dupree. So I've enjoyed Chad Gable's little journey that he's had going on. I imagine what's going to happen is they've obviously been setting up that Maxine Dupree is going to join the Vision. I imagine she'll join the Vision, and they'll beat down Alpha Academy. And then, Chad Gable will make the save, and, that will kind of get them to forgive him. But yeah, I've really enjoyed Chad Gable's part of the story. That's been really good. So yeah, that's all the AAA stuff out of the way. Let's talk about the main roster stuff, which is kind of unfortunate because AAA's just been so good. The main roster, I don't really think has been able to really touch it, really. It's been kind of hit or miss. But, I'll start with Clash in Paris because I haven't covered that show yet. Good show, I thought. I really liked that show. The Countdown show was whatever. It's the typical complaints I have about the Countdown show. Chris and I put it on, and we probably skipped the first hour, but obviously, we fast-forwarded, tuned into certain things that we wanted to see. And then the last hour just dragged. They ran out of things to talk about. They were just showing random stuff, but whatever. The biggest thing that came out of the countdown show was Liv Morgan was on the panel, and it was awful. Um, but yeah, then we had the show itself. We had Cody Rhodes versus Gunther for the WWE Undisputed title. I thought this match was very good, maybe really good. I thought they were doing some good stuff. The unfortunate part of this match is I think right when it really started to get going, and they were really finding their stride, they kind of ended the match because Cody hit the crossroads and he pinned Gunther. Gunther had his foot underneath the rope, but obviously the ref didn't see it, so the ref counted 3, but obviously there was controversy because Gunther had his foot under the rope. This was really weird watching because Gunther lifted his foot up at the 3 count. So obviously that's kayfabe, but if Gunther hadn't lifted his foot up, the ref probably would have saw his foot was under the rope, and we wouldn't have any of this problems. But whatever. They clearly wanted to extend this, so I give it 3.5 stars. I thought it was really good. I feel like this match could have been so much better. I think some of it too they were kind of rushing, which I'm wondering that's going to be an issue with WWE PLEs, at least the first couple of matches going forward, because since the first hour was on ESPN, I wonder if they're going to rush a lot to get the first 2 matches done. So I kind of hope they don't do that. I kind of hope they take their time. This is the second time they've done this. Obviously, the first time was WrestleMania, but one of the matches was going to go short anyways. So it is what it is. But yeah, that was really good. I think it's just kind of annoying too because as we've seen a pattern, a lot of Cody's storylines are roughly the same. He feuds with somebody, he beats them in the first match because of controversy. So the whole thing is that they get lawyers involved. They get the second match, then they lose that one. They get one more match, and then either they win or lose, and then that's kind of it. So that's been a lot of Cody's feuds, I would say, since maybe he won the title the first time. Because, he feuded with AJ Styles, and Styles just straight up lost, but then, they came back and did that match. They did it with Solo. They did it with Kevin Owens. They did it with Drew McIntyre. That's probably the biggest one. They did it with Cena. So I would like to see, and I think what also sucks about Cody's feuds is I wish Cody could just defend the title against somebody, then just move on to the next guy at the next PLE. Because, it feels like a lot of his feuds just last forever. This Gunther one easily could have just blown off on this PLE. The Drew one could have blown off at a PLE. This way, too, Cody can wrestle more people. More people can kind of get into the title mix. So I think it kind of sucks that a lot of Cody's feuds just last a while. But yeah, then we had the next match, which was Rhea Ripley versus Jade Cargill for the women's title. This match really surprised me. They delivered good at WrestleMania, but I was also there live. But this match, they really went back and forth. Both women worked real hard. Obviously, there was interference from, I think it was Charlotte, and then obviously before that was Beechin. Obviously, we had the big moment where B-Fab botched, put in Rhea's foot on the rope. But other than that, I thought this match came together real well. I'm going to give it 4.5 stars. I really enjoyed it, which I didn't expect. Obviously, Rhea won with the Riptide. Rhea ended up obviously getting injured in this match. We haven't seen her since then. Obviously, she's not going to vacate the belt, and there really is no reason to. I imagine she's going to be back pretty quickly. So there's that. Then we had the first match on ESPN Plus proper, which was Brock Lesnar versus Obafemi. Obviously, this match ended up having some controversy, which I had expected, because Brock, beat Oba, and he pretty much did dominate him. And everyone kind of thought Oba got hurt from this. I personally didn't see it that way. Brock did attack him before the match, I thought, they protected Oba pretty well because of that. But then also, he kicked out of like 7 F5s total in the match. He got right up at, like, pretty dominantly when he got F5 through the announce table and, like, got right up at like 6 and then went into the ring. He survived the Kimura lock. So, yeah. I personally don't think, like, Oba got this hurt Oba that much. I still think this helped him. Well, maybe not helped him, but I don't think it hurt him. But I personally think, they still made him look strong in defeat. Um, I kind of expected this to happen, though. I knew Brock was winning. I knew people weren't going to be happy with it. Um, but I think it's fine. Oba, they were going to do a third match. And Oba's going to probably beat him at SummerSlam. And then Brock actually will retire this time. So, um, it's what it is. I would have preferred, obviously, Oba just beats him at WrestleMania and then Brock retires. Selfishly, because I would have been there for Brock's last match. And obviously, I just think, you know, that was probably the best thing that could have happened. No one really expected Brock to actually like retire there, so that would have been fine. But whatever. Um, but yeah, so I still enjoyed that though. I had fun watching that. I'll give that probably 4.5 stars. Also, then we had the women's IC title match. It was Becky Lynch defending against Soruka. This match surprised me too. If you watched the last Aftershock that Chris and I did, we were pretty critical of like Soruka and like the Becky match and everything like that. I was even pretty critical, saying that she shouldn't even win the title because of her performance on the main roster. But here she performed well. She only messed up like one move, but that really wasn't her fault. That was more she couldn't get like the footing right because of like the ropes and everything like that, from what I remember. But yeah, she beat Becky. I think this makes a lot of sense. Becky's been in the women's IC title picture for a while now. I think it makes sense for her to kind of step away from that and kind of do something else. And so Luca, really needed to get a big win since she hadn't really won any matches on the main roster, and she looked pretty bad at Saturday night's main event. So, yeah, I'm happy she got the win here. Um, so that's good. I'll probably give that match like 3 and 3/4 stars. I remember that match being very good. Then the main event was Tribal Combat. Roman Reigns defended the world title against Jacob Fatu. Great stuff here. I expected this match to be a little bit more brutal because of the stakes involved and everything like that, but it never really got to that level. I wish it would have been a little bit more brutal. Roman did slam Jacob's like hands into a toolbox. That's about how brutal it got. But then eventually, Roman hit the spear on Jacob through the table, and then he hit the super spear where he like runs around both sides of the ring, um, and he beat Jacob Fatu, and yeah, Jacob Fatu now is part of the bloodline. He has to serve Roman Reigns, so yeah, um, and it was a clean win too. A lot of which a lot of people kind of weren't happy about, but I'm not gonna complain about this. I feel like a lot of people aren't gonna be happy regardless. They were kind of complaining when Roman Reigns would win with help, so I kind of like the fact that Roman Reigns actually is winning with help. Um, I think that's the biggest thing I've liked about the Roman since after Mania is he's been a little bit more full time. And then we've seen him win on his own, which is I think cool. So, but yeah, that match was probably 4 stars. I thought it was great, and I like Clash in Italy. I'm probably gonna get some flack for that. I'm gonna give the show probably an A minus. I really enjoyed it. Um, Obviously, I would give it like the ads, and um, I obviously wouldn't have a 2 hour countdown show and things like that. So, it's what it is. Then there was the post show where they like announced the brackets for the King and Queen of the Wind tournament that I'll talk about in a few minutes, and then obviously other things like that. But yeah, let's do some predictions for the next two PLEs because we're just going right into the next one. Um, we'll start with 90 Champions since that's first. And yeah, Night of Champions is looking like a pretty decent show, I think. Um, we actually have like almost a full PLE card. We have 6 matches. I still think that's a little too short, but it's better than what we've been getting. But we have kind of a full card here. Um, so yeah, let's just get right into it. Um, first match is going to be on the show is going to be the two King and Queen of the Ring tournament matches. I think the Kings is first and then the Queens. I would imagine that they're going to do it. So the King of the Ring finals is Obafemi versus Jey Uso. Um, Obviously, not a fan of how all this came together. Um, I'm not really a big fan of how the King of the Ring tournament was really booked. I feel like they could have done it better. Um, they did. The first round was all 4-way matches. And they clearly could have done that better. How that worked was um, Oba won his 4-way, then Javon, then Jey Uso, and then it was Oba, and then Dominic Mysterio, and then Oba beat Dominic, and then Jay beat Javon, and that's how we got to the finals. I personally would have done the tournament completely different. Um, Obviously, I would have probably had, if I was booking the tournament, um, I would have had Seth win his 4-way, and then, um, you know, LA Knight win his, have Seth and LA Knight face off in the first round. You would obviously have to move the brackets around because I'm pretty sure Seth and LA Knight would have been in different parts of the brackets. But yeah, I would have had Seth and LA Knight face off in the quarterfinals. Um, and then Oba wouldn't make it probably to the quarterfinals. That way he doesn't have to take a loss in the singles ones. He could do it in a 4-way. Um, and maybe have Braun Breaker advance, and then Braun can beat maybe Jey Uso if you want to do Jey Uso, or Finn Balor. I would probably do Finn Balor because that's a new matchup, and then have Seth and Braun Breaker face off in the finals. Because I think that's the biggest thing that kind of sucked is this was really Seth's tournament to win. Um, Seth Rollins hasn't lost his title. Him and Roman were supposed to face off at WrestleMania this year for the title. So I think SummerSlam would be a perfect place to have the replacement match for it. Especially with all the storyline that would be there now with Roman rebuilding the bloodline back up and Seth wanting to get his title back. I think the writing's on the wall there. If it wasn't going to be Seth, it also should have been LA Knight with the storyline that he's doing right now, where he thinks the bloodline's coming after him and everything like that. He's being really paranoid about that. And then it can lead to Roman Reigns versus LA Knight. One of those two should have won the tournament. Um, if I had to make a prediction, Jay's probably winning. I really think they should go with Oba here, though. I know they have to tie up that Brock Lesnar end, so obviously they're going to have Brock Lesnar interfere in this match, and that's going to cause Jay to win. But personally, I wouldn't do it that way. I just have Oba win, and maybe you just have Oba face Brock one night at SummerSlam, probably night 1, retire him, and then maybe face Cody, beat him for the belt. Or face Roman, beat him for the belt. Or maybe you don't even have to have Oba beat Roman. You could have something happen where because he took so much damage from the Brock match the night before, and you could have some bloodline shenanigans and have Roman beat Oba, which I wouldn't do, but I'm just saying if you don't want to put the belt on Oba necessarily at SummerSlam, keep it on Roman. But yeah, Jay's probably winning. I don't think this should have happened. Kind of over the Jey Uso push. He's been better this week, but I just think there was better options for the King of the Ring tournament. The 4-way he was in, Finn Balor should have won it, or LA Knight. Finn Balor, because it was his first match on SmackDown, it would have been a new fresh start for him. Maybe he could have won the tournament as well, especially because by that time that 4-way happened, Dominic Mysterio had qualified, you could have had Dom make it to the finals and Finn make it to the finals. So that way you could finally blow off that story because they fucked that up and didn't get to do that because they put Finn on SmackDown. Or um, you could have had LA Knight win it. Um, I don't know why they even put Jay in the same tournament as Finn and LA Knight, knowing that it was going to get hated. That just didn't really make sense. But yeah, they should have done my idea for the tournament where you put Seth and LA Knight in the same bracket, have them win their 4-way matches, have Seth beat LA Knight, um, and then maybe you have like have Braun win his first round, then Dom, and then you do Seth versus Braun, and yeah, you get Seth versus Braun again, but at least it's in a tournament finals, and this way like they can keep that story going, and then Seth can at least feels like he's moved on enough, but whatever. Um, but yeah, then we have the Queen one, which is booked even worse. Um, it's I kid you not, Liv Morgan versus Io Sky in the Queen of the Wind tournament. This makes no sense. They put Liv in the tournament, which I think was dumb, um, because she already has a world title that she isn't defending. She barely wrestles anyway, so I don't think before this tournament she didn't really wrestle one match, and the matches she's wrestled she hasn't really had to take a lot of damage or really do a whole lot because one of them was a 4-way where she kind of just laid around and didn't really do much there. And then they did like a injury angle with Charlotte Flair where she basically took all the offense. So she really hasn't done much wrestling anyways. So, um, but yeah, logic says Liv wins. WWE's really fascinated with Liv Morgan for some reason, and it's Saudi Arabia too. She always does really well in Saudi Arabia. That's where she won her first women's world title. That's where she won the Rumble. She won the Crown Jewel Women's title. But I don't care about any of that. I'm picking Io Sky. Um, Liv can't win this. It's really forced if she wins. She already has a title that she's not defending, and I just think it's gonna not only go over well if she wins. Um, I think if Io Sky wins, there's a lot of options too, because she'd be able to pick which champion she faces. So you could think she'd want to pick Liv, but I would have her face Rhea Ripley at SummerSlam. That's a really interesting match since they could go back to that storyline where Rhea's never beaten Io. Maybe Io can win and then Rhea can snap and turn heel, which I think would be interesting. So I'm gonna say Io wins. Uh, so then the rest of the matches, I'm just gonna kind of guess where they're gonna be. I imagine I know what the main event pretty much is gonna be, but then the other three matches, I'm not exactly sure where they'll be. Um, I'm gonna say the next match will be, what is it? It's Ricky versus um, Trick Williams, because there's two left, so they'd be in the six matches. There's a triple threat. There's two other matches. The women's U.S. title. Um, yeah, there's four, isn't there? So there should be another one. I'm trying to remember. What was that? It was only five. Maybe I miss. Maybe I'm missing something. Because Roma's not wrestling. I had this card like memorized too. I'm just gonna double check to see what the. Oh, it's the cage match. Seth and Braun Breaker. Um, I actually just remember that too. I didn't even look. But yeah, yeah, I'll say Ricky and but maybe they want to do the cage match next, because that way you can easily set up the cage when they are transitioning over from ESPN Plus. So yeah, I think the cage match actually is going to be next. Seth Rollins versus Braun Breaker. Um, I think Seth wins this. Um, the whole point of this is to end the feud. I think the feud only can really end if Seth wins. Um, Braun Breaker probably could use the win, obviously, but I don't think he's gonna be world champion anytime soon, since the two world champions. People I don't really think he's gonna face anytime soon. Like I don't think he's facing Roman anytime soon, so we don't need that. And Cody and Braun doesn't really make sense as a match right now. And again, Seth has taken a lot of big losses since he's come back. He lost to Braun at Backlash. He lost to Gunther at WrestleMania. So I think it makes sense to go with Seth. And then maybe, if you want to do Seth versus Roman at SummerSlam, you can easily transition into that, which, I mean, there was an easier way if this was the tournament finals, but it's WWE doesn't like to do things the easy way. So yeah, I'm going to say Seth wins the cage match. And then the women's U.S. title match, Jade Cargill versus Tiffany Stratton. Um, this is why I'm kind of happy I did this after SmackDown. Because I originally was going to say Jade wins, and you get Jade versus Charlotte at SummerSlam for the title. By the way, first time the U.S. women's title is being defended on PLE, which is kind of crazy since it's been around since Saturday Night's main event in 2024, and it's just now being defended on a PLE, which is just insane. Um, but because Jade's gotten the better of Tiffany, basically the whole feud, and they did that injury angle with Charlotte on SmackDown. She wasn't at SmackDown, well, last week, but she wasn't at SmackDown tonight because I'm filming this Friday. I'm probably not going to upload this until uh, Saturday. I imagine on this show, Charlotte Flair is going to come back, and it will cost Jade the match, and Tiffany will retain the title. Because quite frankly, I don't really think it matters who the women's U.S. title is on. I was going to say with Jade as champion, maybe it'd be showcased more, but the women's title really wasn't showcased much when she had it, so I don't know why the women's U.S. title would be the same. So I'm going to say Tiffany Stratton retains. Then we have the men's U.S. title, which Ricky Saints challenging Trick Williams. Obviously, Ricky Saints got the shot by beating Carmelo Hayes. I say Trick Williams retains. He's got a lot of momentum on his side right now. I don't really see a reason for him to lose the title right now. So I'm going to say Trick Williams retains. Then we have the main event. It's Cody Rhodes defending the WWE Undisputed Championship against Gunther and Sami Zayn. They got to this pretty interestingly by bringing Sami to the story because he was kind of in the story before. With Cody and Sami kind of having some tension with each other, and then Gunther making Sami the referee for the rematch, and Sami kind of messing all that up. And this is a pretty interesting main event. It's a little unpredictable. Like it's not necessarily given Cody wins. It probably is the case, but it's not necessarily given. But they could give it to Sami. They could give it to Gunther. So either one of these guys, I think, could win it. And it would be interesting to see what reaction Sami gets, considering the fact that, this is kind of like home field advantage for him. He always gets cheered in Saudi. So it'd be interesting to see what reaction he gets. And I think that's what makes this character that he's doing right now very interesting. So if I had to pick a winner, it really could be any of these guys. Gunther could win because he needs a win. Because Cody's beaten him twice, 3 times if you want to count whatever happened on SmackDown when they faced off like twice for the title. And, they gave him all this stuff like retiring John Cena, Goldberg, and AJ Styles. I think they really need to validate that with the world title one because he's kind of starting to feel like any other guy on the show. Sami would be interesting, I think, especially if Jay won the tournament because then you could have that match for the WWE title at SummerSlam with Sami versus Jay. We haven't really seen that match yet. I feel like that'd be interesting, especially too because both like characters have like a big contrast where Sami has that with the audience and Jay, so it'd be interesting to see where the audience would go. And obviously Cody's their boy, so they would probably have him win. Because WrestleMania is in Saudi next year, I think that's where Sami gets his world title win because everyone would really be into it. I don't have, and if Jay wins the tournament, I don't have an interest to see him versus Gunther again. I feel like we've seen that a lot. So, I am going to say that Cody retains, which I think is probably, well, I think Gunther's probably least interesting option because you just get Jay versus Gunther again. But I'm just really not interested in seeing Jay versus Cody. Um, there is some history there, obviously, with the tag title run on Raw and Cody, like, kind of going to bat for Jay and all that stuff, but that's just not really that interesting of a world title match. So, um, yeah, so that's kind of whatever. Um, but that's any champions. I think the show would be fine. Um, I'm probably gonna get pissed a lot in this show. I feel like, uh, depending on how the first two matches go, could put me in the bad mood because I don't really want to see Jay win. I don't really want to see Liv win, and I feel like one of them is. And honestly, it's probably more likely Liv wins, but whatever. I'll go over my predictions again real quick. So I predict that Jay's gonna win the men's King of the Win, and Io's gonna win the Queen of the Win tournament. Seth's gonna beat Braun in the cage match. Tiffany retains the women's U.S. title. Trick retains the men's U.S. title, and then Cody retains the WWE title. So, and no title changes I picked on this show. So we'll see if that. I guarantee you something's gonna get wrong here, but whatever. Um, but now let's go through NXT. I've enjoyed NXT. You know, other than AAA, that's probably my favorite WWE show at the moment. I feel like NXT is kind of in a restructuring mode a little bit, obviously, because a lot of the big stars have like left, so they're trying to plug in some new stars, and some have worked, some haven't. They're having their first big show on the CW network, which they really didn't explain. I thought it was the app that it was going to be going on, but no, it's actually the network, which I didn't really think was going to happen. Like, you're just basically going to watch it like a normal NXT show. Don't know if I love that. Kind of sucks for NXT that they get kind of scolded there. Um, this is why I'm kind of pissed that the Peacock deal ended. I wish, like, NXT at least could have stayed on Peacock. That would have been nice with all the tape library, but we don't get that. Um, and I'm also not a fan of it that it's in the PC. I would have liked it if it NXT hasn't been torn as much this year as it was last year. I remember like every other week they were in a new place. And I don't mind the PC, but I feel like PLEs should always be out of the PC, but whatever. But yeah, let's go over these code. We know kicking off the show is going to be Tony D'Angelo defending the NXT title against Naoku, the former Evil from New Japan Pro Wrestling. And I'm interested in this. Naoku has debuted recently. He became the number one contender a few weeks ago, and he's been kind of a protector to Tony D in the NXT Championship. And then this week they did the contract sign-in where he threw a fireball in Tony D's face, and they did this whole angle where like we didn't know if Tony D was going to compete, but now we found out that he can. As for I predict to win, I actually going to say Naoku becomes the new champion. It probably doesn't make much sense because Tony D is pretty early in his run. And there's a lot of other people in the mix, but they just did an angle where he just got a fireball blown in his eye, and I don't think he's going to recover from that by Sunday, like fully. And Naoku is a new superstar. I feel like it would set a big example, especially it's the first match that like you would see on PLE on the CW network. I think Naoku winning just makes a lot of sense because I don't think he's going to spend a ton of time in NXT, so why not put the belt on him? You can always find a way to take it off him. Maybe have Mason Rook or Keanu Kava beat him for it. Probably Keanu, I would do. But I'm going to say, yeah, Naoku becomes a new champion. I think there's a lot of interesting stuff he can do. So, yeah, that's that. Other matches on the show. We have the Women's Speed Championship match. It's Ren Sinclair defending against Ariana Grace. Obviously, Ariana Grace won the Speed tournament to get this match here because they can't do anything new with the Speed belts. I don't really care about this match. I don't care about the Speed belts, really. They're just nothing really. They're just... Honestly, these titles should just go away. We already have enough belts as it is. I don't really think these belts really add anything to NXT. I was kind of okay with them coming in NXT originally, but all that happens with these belts is there's a tournament for them. Somebody wins a tournament. They have a match for the belt. It's just repetitive. They don't really have any storylines going on for them. So, I don't even know why this match is on the show, but uh, I'm gonna say Wen Sinclair retains. I really don't think it matters though. Like if Wen Sinclair retains, cool. If Ariana Grace wins, whatever. I don't think we're gonna see much of the Speed Women's belt. I don't even know why this match is happening, but whatever. Then we have the Women's North American title match. We have Zarya defending against Tatum Paxley. This is kind of cool because Zarya brought this up in a promo that they will like the basically like the managers um, of the last North American title match last year because Zarya was in Soul's corner and Tatum was in Izzy James' corner. So that's kind of a cool little thing that they uh, brought that all around. I kind of wish they had added this match sooner, so they could have they would have been able to like actually talk about that like in a promo in the ring. But whatever. Um, Zarya's gonna retain. She just literally won the belt not that long ago. There's no reason for her to win it to lose it this quickly. I imagine this is gonna be Tatum's last match in NXT. I don't really know what else much she can do. I don't really think she really fits in the NXT Women's Title picture right now. So I'm gonna say Zarya retains. Um, then we have Dion Lennox versus um, Shaquan Sugars. Obviously, the Dog State kicked out Shaquan. It's been a couple weeks now, I think. And Shaquan's been wanting to get revenge by going after each member of Dog State. So now it's just 1-on-1. It's probably not going to happen, but Shaquan, I'm going to pick to win this. But I don't think it's going to happen, considering the fact that I feel like what's actually going to happen is uh, Cutler James and Osiris Griffin's going to like show back up and cost Shaquan the match. And it's going to have to cause him to get like some backup. Maybe they put in like a Javon Evans or like a Tony D to back him up, and they do like a 6-man. And then they have a 1-on-1 rematch with him and Dion. But yeah, I think I'm gonna pick Shaquan anyways. I'm not the biggest Dion Lennox guy. I think this would be cool. I think you could probably still make it work to have Shaquan win. Like maybe like he gets a fluke win and then he gets taken out by Dog State, or he could just win here and then like on NXT this week. That's when like Cutler James and Osiris Griffin could come back and they all beat him up again. So I'm gonna say Shaquan wins. Um, then we have the North American title match. It's um, Tavion Heights challenging Miles Bourne. Kind of glad they went with this direction. They've obviously been kind of going at it a little bit because Miles Bourne is kind of upset that. Oh no, not Miles Bourne. Tavion Heights is upset that Miles Bourne like has done better than him since NQCC's broken up. Um, I'm gonna say Miles Bourne retains. I don't really see a reason to take the title off him. Maybe he retains by a roll up, and then like Tavion snaps and turns heel and breaks his ankle, and it leads to a rematch where Tavion can get the title that way. But that'd be pretty cool. But we'll see what happens there. Um, I want to just check to make sure we don't have any. I know the NXT tag titles being defended. I'm pretty sure I'm missing a match. Yeah, I am. It's Shallow Hill versus Tristan Angels. Um, interesting this is happening on the show, but whatever. Um, I mean, we get 7 matches out of it, so that's good. But yeah, they've been kind of battling about who could be Mr. NXT. They had the competition for it, and Shiloh won, but Tristan attacked him, and now and then Shiloh cost Tristan Angels the Evolve title this past week. That's what I think wins. I think Shiloh wins. It's his first proper big PLE match. They have a lot of stock behind him. It's still too early in Tristan Angel's career to really kind of get him going on anything. I think Shiloh, can do a lot right now. So I'm going to say Shiloh Hill wins. So, and then we have the main event, the NXT Women's Title match. Lola Vice defending against Kendall Gray. Kendall Gray became #1 contender by beating Kalani Jordan a few weeks ago. And they've had some disagreements. They've accidentally hit each other by accident. They had that match right before Stand and Deliver, where it was like a double finish where uh, Lola got pinned, but she made Kendo tap out. Um, I really don't know who could win this. This really could go either way. Lola is pretty early on in the title run. I feel like there's still a lot she can do as champion, but Kendo Gray, I think it's time to finally crown her as champion. Um, I think she can do a lot as champion. I don't really know how she can really rebound if she loses this. So, um, yeah, this was really tough. But I'm going to say, um, with NXT like being on the CW and the fact that I feel like Kendall Gray's ready to get the title now, I'm gonna say Kendall Gray wins the belt. Um, but I would complain either way. But I'm gonna say Kendall wins. Um, if they want to put the belt on another heel, I think whoever wins this can easily just win the title off of them. But yeah, I'm gonna say Kendall Gray wins. And becomes a new champion. I think because it's the main event now too, it could happen. I know I said the opening there'll be a title change, but I feel like a lot of people would be pretty happy if Kendall got the belts. And that's NXT Great American Bash. I want to repeat my predictions real quick. So I predict that Shaquan's going to be Dion Lennox. Ryan Sinclair is going to going to retain the Speed Women's title. Miles Bourne's going to retain the North American title. Shallow Hill is going to be Tristan Angels. Zarya is going to retain the NXT North American title. Tony D is going to retain the NXT title. I'm sorry, no. Naoku is going to become the new NXT champion. By the way, I'm getting tired, so. And then Kendall's going to win the NXT Women's title. So basically, the two world title in like the men's and women's divisions, I think, will change hands, where everything else will stay the same. Just to kind of repeat that. But to kind of end it off, I think I'll review Evolve Session 3 since that was this week. I haven't talked about a lot of Evolve lately because there really hasn't been a ton to talk about, and I figured I'd just wait till Session 3. So there's that. It kicked off with the Evolve Women's title match. It was Wendy Chu versus Nikita Lyons. This match was kind of whatever. Not only that ended Nikita Lyons. They did have Kendall Gray, Callie Armstrong, and Xena Sterling for some reason was with them, like watching the match. And eventually, after a bunch of interference by Salone Jacobs, Nikita Lyons wins the title. Not a fan that this happened. I'm not the biggest Nikita Lyons fan. I don't really think she's that great. But she won the belt. I guess Wendy Chu is just never going to have a long reign. I imagine, I hate to say this, but when they have to do the next set of cuts, she's going to get the cut. I kind of have been thinking this for a while, especially with all the recent releases that have happened and the fact that, I don't really think they see her ceiling above the NXT level. And typically, when WWE, more specifically TKO, thinks that, they just release them. So I think fall, Wendy Chu's probably going to get released. As for if she does stick around, I imagine she's going to probably just continue to like work behind the scenes and be a trainer with the PC. For the most part, I don't think she's going to go back to NXT because she had a run there for a while. I don't think she's ever going to get that call up. So, but yeah, Nikita Lyons winning. Just I don't really understand why they're so high on Nikita Lyons. She hasn't improved since she came to NXT. She's just not that great in the mic. So whatever. Then we had I know there was a backstage segment before this. I think it was just like a promo. I remember we had like a segment. I think it was some like famous celebrity that's on like a Tubi show that I haven't seen. He's gonna be like the guest GM next week, and he got interviewed, and Nick Gall came up, and he was like upset that like Cutler James like attacked him, and he didn't have a lot of time to prepare for him. So next episode of Evolve, we're gonna have Cutler James versus It's Gall. So that's interesting. Um, then we had the big debut of two mystery wrestlers that were going to come in. How I thought this was explained was it was going to be like an exhibition. It was going to be two guys debuting, but that's not what happened. It was just two wrestlers were going to show up. Um, I think they could have explained this better, but whatever. And it was what's his name? I just had his name a second ago. That probably shows you how much impression of he left because he used to team with Elijah Connors. Kel Dixon, that's who it is. Um, this was a little disappointing. They kind of hyped this up like it would be someone pretty well known, like in the Indies, or maybe someone coming up from NXT and coming down. And the fact that it was just Kel Dixon was pretty disappointing. Um, Not that I have anything against him. He hasn't really done anything to warrant the hype that he got around his debut. He's back to being a heel now. Um, and he beat Kavita Davari, I think is his name, or Davita, because some woman looked at him from inside and stuff and beat him, and it caused him to win. I think this is Megan Walker. She just had a ring name change recently. I don't remember what it is, but this is Megan Walker. This is one of those models that they've signed up. I imagine they're gonna put Kel Dixon and Megan Walker together. So that's interesting. But yeah, this was pretty disappointing. And then we had the main event before it happened. The ID Prospect 2.0 were kind of making fun of the replacement GM for next week, and he announced that next week they're supposed to face, I think it's Marcus Matthews, and two other I know it's Capitina Jones, and it's that real tall guy, but he's in the 1.0 ID program. They're supposed to face them, but now that match is an elimination tag match. Really weird. He's already loaded the show with 3 matches, and I think Evolve only has like 3 matches, so I don't really think we're gonna see him much next week. So, whatever. But we had the main event. It was the Evolve champion, the men's Evolve champion. I gotta look up who that is. Aaron Rourke. I knew it was Aaron something, but he's defending against Max Abrams, the former Mike Cunningham. I don't know why they changed his name. I liked the name before. Really good match this was. Eventually, ID 1.0 or 2.0 tried to interfere, but then ID 1.0 ran out and all brawled to the back, and eventually not Twisted Angels, Aaron Rourke, I don't know where Twisted Angels came from, hit the Molly go round and he beat Max Abrams. I don't really think there's a reason to take the title off of Aaron Rourke right now, so I'm okay with him retaining. I thought the match was very good though. Afterwards, security, like the 1.0 and 2.0, I'm about to get into it, and the security comes out and they just beat up everybody. It's like Timothy Thatcher's like personal security that he like placed. So I imagine they're gonna be wrestlers now. I kind of figured this was gonna happen. I thought what would have happened was they would have like turned heel and joined up with the 1.0 crowd, but that's not gonna happen. So kind of interested that the biggest thing that came out of Secession was 2 security guys like beating up people, but whatever. Secession was fine. I feel like this was probably the worst offering of Secession. Just because I think, while the main event was great, I feel like the first 2 matches really didn't do anything for me. I feel like the first one was probably the best, just because it took place in like the NXT like setting, so it had that going for it. And then you had like a lot of cool stuff happen, like Kendra Gray winning the women's title and everything. But yeah, this one was fine. But that's pretty much it for WWE Aftershock. I won't try to go too long without doing another one. I definitely will try to do one next week, consider the fact that we have 2 big PLEs and some big stuff next week. But other than that, that's pretty much it, guys. Check out on the Talkinator channel. We're getting a lot of stuff done on that channel and producing a lot of content, so make sure you check that out. And obviously check out this channel for more Aftershocks and things like that. That's pretty much it, guys, and I will talk to you guys later.